Hello everyone, this is Orlando from A Collector's Dream, and today I just kind of want to go and talk a little bit about some pre-war cards and maybe just show you some of the things that I've learned and picked up over the years. And really I started first learning about it is when I went to this event here, which was the 13th National. And the first person I met there that I saw was Mr. Mint. And he had like the first big table there. And, you know, as I collected Mickey Mantle cards, he really was the big draw for me there. So I hung around that table, talked to him a little bit, and I have his autograph somewhere, but here's the pin that he gave me back in 1992. So as I was in that national, I walked around and I got to see, I picked up my first Goodwin champion card there. I picked up a few of them raw because I just loved them. And because I had gone to this table here, Alan Hager's table, and I got to see him, and I got to pick up one of his books. And you know, he had here this, able to find rare sports card from 1886 to present in all 5 sports. It was, you know, so I kind of, it was like a handout they had there to order some of the stuff here. So I picked up this book here. Picked up Hager's Comprehensive Guide to Rare Baseball Cards. That's the book that I picked up. And this is the book that really has, you know, drew me into the pre-war and got me really to learn more about the pre-war back in the early 90s. And that's when I started, you know, going back into pre-war. And some of these cards, you know, like this card is one I still looking to get. Of course, a lot of these I'm still looking to get. You have, you know, this, of course, all of this were golds, kinda. But, you know, it shows all of the rarer cards here in the, you know, in collecting at the time. So, and this is Alan Hager. So what I want to do today is just kind of go over some of the stuff here. And what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to go back. This book has everything from all the years. So I'm going to show some, but it really starts going back to the early 1800s. But we're going to go ahead and skip some of that because it's just, it goes way back. It's a lot of history. It gets very complicated and stuff. So what I decided I'm going to do is I'm going to start, and this is just how to, with the 1900s. And I will show, real quick, the Goodwin Champion page and talk a little bit about that because that was one that just was the one that attracted me the most. And I'll talk a little bit about that one. And, you know, it talks about it issued in 1888 by Goodwin and Company. They were inserted into packs of Old Judge and Gypsy Queen cigarettes. And the champion set includes billiard players, cyclists, marksmen, runners, pugilists, which were boxers, wrestler, the football player, which was the Beacher, the weightlifters, and Buffalo Bill Cody. And it talks about, you know, the whole set, that the football card was the first ever issued, and that's where I learned about it. And it had 8 baseball players, 4 were Hall of Famers, and it was the most, according to Hager, it was one of the most beautiful and rarest 19th century set issued. So I went through and I looked at a lot of the 19th century sets, and definitely to me it was. And here's an example of one of the, let's see if I can get the focus on that for some reason. Here. And this is an example of one of the Goodwin champion cards that were from 1888. And you could just see the stunning artwork on these cards. This is one of the jockeys. I mean, the detail on these and the artwork on these are just, you know, they're stunning cards. So I know Greg from Midlife was talking about these, and I just wanted to share just one example of that, even though I want to talk about the 1900s, but I just wanted to share that one, and so you could see a sample of some of the artwork and some of the details on that. And the backs have the list of all the 50 cards, but I want to get into really is the beginning of the 1900s, and just try to move on a little bit on those, because that's really where a lot of people collect. And when they think of pre-war, they think of cards from the 1900s. So we'll start with the first and the rarest set of the 1900s, and that's the 1903, the Bryce Williams, the E107. And I happen to have one of those cards, and I'm a proud owner of the Earl Moore. And of all of these cards, there's probably less than 5 known of any of these players. And this is the 1903 E107 Earl Moore. And there's a Type 1 and a Type 2. And this is where things, you know, in pre-war and you know, and below the 1800s, it gets a little complicated, but it's also complicated in the 1900s because there's a lot of Type 1s, Type 2s, and different fronts that are glossy or not. I don't want to get into all the details, but I want to show you some of the cards, especially the Earl Moore, because the thing on these Bryce Williams cards is that in the backs, they have different kinds. They have the blank backs, which is what this is, and this has a little paper loss on the front. But the key to these is that it was the first cards issued in the 1900s, and they had beautiful photographs, as you can see, of the players. And as I show you the Earl Moore card, I'll read a little bit about these. These were produced by Bryce Williams and was the series to establish the pattern for future sets all the way up to the 1920s, including the popular T206. There's 158 cards in the series and 21 Hall of Famers. You know, some of the backs say one of 150 prominent baseball players. Some of them are blank, and some actually have a stamp from Bryce Williams. But some of the cards that are in this set are just the top names at the time, you know, from Chief Bender to Ed Delahanty to Kid Gleason, Addie Joss, Wee Willie Keeler. And the main cards here are some of the rookie cards of some of these players. There's the Nap LaJoy rookie card, and I'll show you here just a list of some of these. The Nap LaJoy rookie card. Again, this is an old book. The Christy Mathewson rookie card is also in this set, along with the rookie card of Honus Wagner. The Honus Wagner rookie card, Rube Waddell rookie card. I mean, Cy Young is in this set too. You see the Cy Young here. And then the Type 2 is a little bit different because the Type 2 were printed in a thick stock paper. And they, you know, again, they're the same look, but it's just a different thing. They're printed on, the other ones are printed on standard paperboard stock. And so the Type 2, you can see there's just a few of them. There's an Ed Delahanty, Wee Willie Keeler in Type 2. And these were the first cards that were produced. See some with the stamp, and most of them are blank back, and some of them have the player there. But there were a little more than 150 players. And you know, they're just very, very tough to find. And I just wanted to show you an example of that so you can see what they look like and the actual beautiful photos. You can imagine Honus Wagner, Cy Young, Christy Mathewson. That's a Grail card. And again, there's very few of those. And according to the author here of the book, you know, he tells you how many he's handled in his lifetime, and you know, 80 in the last 5 years. And this at that time was one of the big time collectors there. So after that, after 1903, then came the Fan Craze. But the Fan Craze cards really were a more of a table game card. I don't have any of the Fan Craze, so I'm just going to share some of this stuff. The Fan Craze cards were in 1904. They're produced in Cincinnati, and it was designed as a baseball table game. There's two types of cards. There's the red and there's the blue. And the red is the National League players and the blue is the American League players. And the front of the card has like a sepia tone photos. And in the back it says Fan Craze and things like that. And some of the, you have Chief Bender in 1904. You have Jack Chesbrough. You have Sam Crawford, a rookie card there, and a few others. And these actually are not as expensive because they're like a game card. But you have Wee Willie Keeler. You have Nap LaJoy, Connie Mack, and you also have Cy Young in there. And again, in the red version, you have the Honus Wagner card. So I'll move down and I'll show you a little bit on the book there. You can see the list of some of the players. So if you want to pause there, you can always do that. But it has Hugh Duffy, Mordecai Brown, Bresnahan, McGraw. So these are pretty good. And this guy will make certain suggestions, on how to collect and how rare they are and things like that. But these came in like a little a box game, So you could find these in pretty good condition still. And they have rounded corners, so it makes it a little bit easier. Then in 1908, the Caramel Company started with the Caramel Sets. And the first one in this book is the E91 Caramel Set. And I'll give you a look at what that looks like in the back there. And that was issued in 1908 by the Philadelphia American Caramel. And they're color lithographs, basically generic players rather than the actual players. So, they're just little drawings. The set can be differentiated from the later 1909 sets by the design that are in the back. So that you can see in the back, they're different. And that really tells you the different, years. And this particular one is a set of 33 cards here. And it's the E91. It's set A, E91. And that has, again, all of the big names from Mordecai Brown to Christy Mathewson, Rube Waddell, things like that. It doesn't have a Wagner in there or anything like that. And of course, Ty Cobb wasn't here yet. He comes over soon. And again, this is just mainly the cards, not cabinet cards or postcards or exhibit cards. So the next set here he talks about is the 1908, the anonymous E102. And this was one of the earliest, candy issues, along with the American Caramel. And this was produced by an East Coast candy company, and it's a smaller candy company. It consists of 25 players and 4 varieties, which exactly comes out to 29. So there's some variations in here. There are 9 Hall of Famers, including what kind of is considered as card, the Ty Cobb rookie card. So, and that would be card number 1 here. And you can see the anonymous cards, how they are very similar. You can't really, tell, the person because it's kind of a generic drawing on that. And on the back, it says this picture is one of the set of 25 ball players. And then it has the checklist. And they're printed on standard paperboard stock. And, sometimes you'll find caramel stains, which is a good thing. So you got Joe Tinker in there. You got Christy Mathewson, Sam Crawford. You got a couple of Honus Wagners batting and fielding in there. And you got the Ty Cobb and a few others. So that's another one of these caramel sets, the 1908 anonymous E102. The next one I want to show you is the American Caramel Set B, the E91. And you can see it's kind of a little bit similar to the first American Caramel, the 1908, but just a little different there. And in 1909, again, the same thing, color lithographs. The set's not that popular, you know, with collectors, but, you know, because the photos just don't really look like the players too much. But still, you got some big names in there, and, you know, it's very, very similar to the E90, but it's the E91. And I mean, it's very similar to the other E91A. It's an E91B. Sorry about that confusion. And that's got Joe Tinker. It's got Eddie Plank, Christy Mathewson, and again, all of the big names in there. And there is no Ty Cobb or Hannes Wagner on that particular, the E91 set B. So as you can see, as we get into pre-war, some of these get, you know, the numbers and the names and stuff get confusing, but, you know, that's why you need a book like this. And, you know, it's just a lot of learning. It takes a while. You just gotta, you know, get to read it and learn it, see the cards, look at them, and it takes a long time. But this is what got me started, and I spent nights and nights and nights look at these. When I would go to different shows, you know, I'd try to find some of these, or at least see them. And this is the other one, 1909, the anonymous E101. They're also known as the E90. They're similar to the E92 Dockmans, the Crafts, and the Nagias of the same period. They're pretty much the same pictures, but the back of the E101 is a 50 card set. And they were distributed through merchants in the packs of caramels also. And the front of these cards exhibit a player, usually like an in-action. They don't have, you know, they're the whole player usually, not portraits. At the bottom is the player's name, position, and league. And the 50 lithograph cards were also on the standard stock, same as the other caramel cards. And in the back it says this is one of 50 baseball players, prominent members of the National and American Leagues. And some of the players in the 1909 E101 are Ty Cobb, Sam Crawford, Christy Mathewson, Huey Jennings. You know, you do have a Hannes Wagner, a Cy Young, and all that. So all of these have a lot of the main players. Some are a little rarer than others. And it's just a matter of what do you like as far as what cards do you like. And that's really what it comes down to as far as what do you collect. And the 1909 Crofts Candy, again, these are very similar and posed to the issued by the American Caramel Company or Philadelphia Crofts Candy. It's a 50 card set, has the same fronts as the Dockman, the Nadia, and the anonymous sets. To differentiate this card from the others, the back will state Candy Crofts Candy or Allen Company type thing in the back. So they're all different. But the pictures are going to be the same as the ones that I just showed you before. And you also have, along with the Crofts Candy, you also have the Crofts Cocoa. And again, it's the same cards from the same set. They should be by American Caramel. They were just in different products, and or handed in different products. So this one, you know, says the Swiss milk cocoa served hot at our fountain, and it has the address in Philadelphia. So the Crofts Candy and the Crofts Cocoa are basically the same pictures, just different backs. They're still the E92 cards in 1909. So after that, you come to the Dockman and Sons, and I talked about that one earlier. Exactly, the fronts are exactly like the 1909 Anonymous, the Crofts, the Nadias, and all that. They all look the same on the front because the picture was the same picture. But the backs, it shows the different players and things like that. And again, there's a lot of rarities in all these. I don't want to get into all the detail of every one of these sets, but I want to give you guys a good idea. So, you know, you just kind of know what they are, you know, what they look like. And again, this has, you know, Hannes Wagner and, you know, Christy Mathewson, Nat LaJoy, Sam Crawford, all of that stuff in there. And then you have the Najas. And that again is, this is a caramel sets. These are all caramel sets. You know, when you talk about these cards, the E cards, they're candy cards. And so you've got the Naja caramels. Again, this was issued by the American Caramel Company of Philadelphia for Naja caramels, which was a local merchant. So in this case, they only had 12 cards instead of the other ones that had up to 40 cards or 50 cards. And the Naja they're rarer than the other ones. You know, it's the rarest set of the 1909 issues because of the small number of players. It only has 4 Hall of Famers. And so it has Roger Bresnahan, Cy Young, and Fred Clark. So in this case, if you're looking for some rarities in these E92s, you know, the Naja caramel is probably one of the rarest ones. And the Cy Young and the Naja is one of the rarest ones, you know, versus, you know, the Cy Young in the Dockmans, even though the pictures would be the same. So just as, you know, these are some stuff that, you know, you guys got to read up on this if you want to get into pre-war. This is some good examples. In 1909, you also have the Obaks. And the Obaks are, again, they were issued by the American, these were now issued by, they're kind of the first now actual tobacco cards. And these were again issued by the American Tobacco Company. And American Tobacco Company at this time, American Tobacco Company has been, is now the fanatics of tobacco, okay? They have taken over Mr. Goodwin, that owned the Old Judge and Gypsy Queen. They kind of partnered with Allen and Ginter, and Dukes, and the other guys. They created a monopoly, and basically they controlled all of the tobacco companies back in the early 1900s. And this is when they started coming out with tobacco cards in the beginning. And you know, Oback, they owned all of these companies. And again, in 1909, is where the big set came out, which was we get to the T206s and different backs, because they were all distributed in the same fronts, because they were distributed by the same company, the American Tobacco, and they just had different tobacco issues that they were inserted in. So first was this Obaks, and these are rare because these were distributed in California for the Pacific Coast League, and they're basically minor league cards, and they're just rare. They're tough to find. There aren't really any big you know, names in here, but it's a tough set. And then in the caramel sets, again in 1909, so that was a tobacco issue, as you see the T212, and then this is the caramel sets, which is the E's. So again in 1909, the Philadelphia Caramel Company of Camden, New Jersey, issued a 25 card set that was issued in packs of chewing gum. So technically, these were the first actual chewing gum cards. They were still caramel, but they were actually, you know, gum. The fronts are exactly like the 1909, the E92 Anonymous and the Crofts and the Najas, still using the same pictures, but they feature a color player and you know, with a white border, color picture with a white border, and 25 cards. These are very, very rare. They're tough to find because these are printed on thin paper stock. So instead of being more of like a card stock, they're more like a paper. So that's where these, really are extremely difficult to find and extremely expensive, especially in good condition. But these Philadelphia Caramels, the E95, you have Hannes Wagner in the set, you have Christy Mathewson, you have, of course, Ty Cobb in the set, which is really like the big card in there. So if you're looking for a rare card, really, of like a Ty Cobb or something, this 1909 E95s are pretty tough to find, especially in any condition because they're thin. And after that, you get into some of my favorite cards as far as premium cards are the Ramleys. And again, now remember, the American Tobacco Company owns all of the tobacco card and sets at this time. So they came out with the Ramleys, and the Ramleys were really the top brand, the premium brand of that era. They were, if you want to think about it, as the Flawless or the those type of cards, or those type of cigarettes. And these were issued in 1909, and they were regionally issued in Massachusetts. They were inserted in a fancy raised gold letter 10 cigarette box of Ramley and TTT cigarettes. They were one of the most expensive cigarettes to buy at the time, and it's the main reason that they're so rare and expensive today. The front of these black and white fancy raised gold framed oval pictures features a portrait of the player. So it's a fancy oval, and they're actually they're raised, they're kind of what do you call that, indented. I mean, you could feel the backs of it. It's raised a little bit. It's really, it says this was the first raised gold frame card, which incidentally is where the idea for the it says the idea for action-packed cards came from, or the current action-packed that you see today that have like the raised front. So these were real premium. And in this set, you have, again, most of the top players. You don't have the Ty Cobbs, but you do have Chief Bender, and you have Roger Bresnahan, and Johnny Evers, and Wee Willie Keeler. And the main one is really the Walter Johnson, which is the rookie card of Walter Johnson. But there's an Eddie Plank, Joe Tinker, and a few other ones, Miller Huggins. And they also come in a TTT, which is the other brand of cigarettes. And they also, you see the some of them come with a square, and those are tough to find. There's only a few players that come with that square, like PJ Moran is one of them there. And you can see the two different things in the back and how it's kind of raised. So this is again a tough series to find, but one that is out there. Then in 1909, they produced the silks, and these are the S74Ss for silks. And so these were issued in 1909, and by, again, the American Tobacco Company. So all of the tobacco issued cards here were issued really with American Tobacco, because they were the only one that were actually producing tobacco at the time, and tobacco cards. And these were the same images as the T205 set, but they were issued in premium and fancy raised gold letter boxes of Turkey Red, Old Mill, or Helmar cigarettes. So they came with a brown paperboard back, which could be peeled off and used to make pillows and other silk cloth items. And the majority were used in that fashion. And so you can find the silks with the backing, which is very rare, or you can find it without the backing. And the silks, again, were kind of the same pictures as the T205s. And you see what the backing looks like. And this one particular backing came in Old Mill cigarettes. So they came in a few of those. So kind of, they were, without the backing, it's just like a piece of silk. But with the backing, it's a little more like a card. And the 1909, moving on to one of the more popular series here, the American Caramels that were distributed in a 3-year period from 1909 to 1911. And that's the E90-1 And that's the one that has that Joe Jackson that looks like he's got makeup and stuff on there. And issued from 1909 to 1911 by the American Caramel Company. And again, it's an E90-1 American Caramel card of Philadelphia. It was distributed in Philadelphia. The majority of this set was issued in 1909, but some cards were actually issued all the way up to 1911. And those are actually rare to find. And I won't go into all the detail of that, but basically the front of the card is a color lithograph cards. They're similar in design to the T206s. They exhibit a player surrounded, by, it's a white border and just basically just a color background. And the reverse on the top says that there were 100 subjects, and it says baseball series, baseball caramels. And it has, you could see the glove with the bats in the middle, produced by American Caramel Company. And these cards, again, they're real tough to find because it was basically a regional issue in Philadelphia. But you have the big cards in that set, of course, are the Joe Jackson and the Chief Bender, Roger Bresnahan, Mordecai Brown, Ty Cobb you have in there. Peaches Graham, Sam Crawford, and so on here. So let's see. So the next one, this video is getting long, so we're going to cut it off pretty soon here, but just kind of trying to give you a quick lesson. Another popular one is the E90-2. Again, the American Caramels. The E90 set is one of the more popular sets, and that's got, again, the Joe Jackson that we talked about. And this is, again, the rest of the set. And it has the Hannes Wagner in there. And it does have some horizontal and vertical cards. And you can see the Hannes Wagner with that blue background, a very popular card, and really has spiked up in price. Have Eddie Jaws, Wee Willie Keeler, Eddie Plank. There's also a E90-2 set, which is really, here's a dash 2, and there's the dash 1. So I don't want to confuse you with these guys. So the dash 2 is the one that has the Hannes Wagner in there. And you can see that right down here, Hannes Wagner. But there is a Hannes Wagner also in the E90-1. After that, you got the Briggs set. This is a lozenges. Again, candy, but it was throat lozenges. A Briggs lozenge makers in Boston. And that's another set that was produced for a couple of years. And, it has, again, kind of like a drawing of the players there. And, not a set you see very often. And it's a set of 30 different players. It's the Briggs, 1909 and 1910. And then you got the Kogan chips, again, which is another candy issue produced, inserted into little containers. Most of them were green metal tin containers, the Kogan mint or violet, which are like purple little canisters. And these were produced in Louisville, Kentucky by the Kogan Gum Company. And they were produced again in over a 3-year period, 1909 to 1911. And, the back says Stars of the Diamond. And you got all the big names in. And these, if you want to get into some pre-war, these are probably the most inexpensive pieces that you can get, especially because you can pick up some Hall of Famers for relatively inexpensive. But there is, Joe Jackson is in here and Cy Young and some other ones. But it's Kogan chips, the E254 is probably something you can look at, because I like cards with the pictures more, in my opinion. But hey, I like what you like. From there, you got the domino discs, similar to that. They were used kind of to play games, dominoes on one side, and again, relatively cheap. They have good pictures, and they have a lot of the Hall of Famers in there, like the Cy Youngs and Nat LaJoy and Christy Mathewson and so on. So the 1909, 1911 domino discs, again by the American Tobacco Company. they were produced. And then you move on to the T206s, and that we're not going to get into because that's a whole other video. But that gives you a good idea of some of the cigarettes, where they were in, the boxes they were produced. There's the Fatima, and the box there they came in, the tin they came in, and so on. So this book has all that detail and stuff. So that's as far as we'll go on this video. But I really appreciate you guys watching. Just kind of going over my book again, getting ready for the National. And I thought I'd go ahead and just share a little bit here of some of the cards in this book and give you quick lessons best I can on some of these. And there's the first cards from the in the early 1900s that came out was the 1903, the first one I started in this book. And that's the Earl Moore from the Bryce Williams. Really tough, rare set. And another look at one of the Goodwin Champion cards. We didn't get into the 1800s. That's a whole new lesson. But pre-war's fun, guys. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I've been doing it for years, and I'll continue to collect some pre-war stuff. Just really cool, in my opinion. So thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate you guys hanging in there with me for over 30 minutes. And have an awesome day. Please like and subscribe. This is Orlando from My Collector's Dream, and I'll catch you on the next one.